My Cavoodle gave birth in the car. That's right, my Cavoodle Nessie, she gave birth in the car in the middle of winter, and it was stressful to say the least. But let me rewind and let's go through her birth story and her labor. So it all started on Saturday night. We went to bed at about 11 p.m. and she could not settle. She literally had me up the entire night. She was walking around, she was panting, she was digging, and all this nesting and panting gave me a bit of an indication that she might be getting ready to give birth. So what I did is I got into my scrubs, took off my jewelry, laid down some puppy pads and started to get prepared. I had the whelping, the heating lamp and the heat pad on as well in preparation for puppies. Nessie stood around. Poor thing, she was in early signs of labor, so she was panting, having some small contractions. So here I am just checking her vulva. I was looking for discharge. When a puppy or a dog has discharge, that's a very good indication that the puppies are coming, and she was starting to develop discharge. I also wrapped up her tail. Now I do this to keep it clean during the labor because obviously when she's giving birth, a lot of fluid and a lot of blood and a lot of just gunk comes out. So I wrap up that tail to keep it clean, and then I give her lots of cuddles and try and comfort her. Now in these videos, what you're going to see is a puppy coming down into the vulva. So you'll see her vulva start to bulge and swell as a puppy comes down. But what happened was every time a puppy came down with a contraction and every time she pushed, the puppy went back up, and this wasn't good. So Nessie did this for about 20 minutes, so active straining and active contractions and active pushing for over 20 minutes, and the puppy still couldn't get past and it couldn't come down. I did not see the sac at all. You could only see it coming into the vulva and going back up. So that's when we called the vet, and they told us we had to get in the car and we had to come up to them because she needed a cesarean. But when we were driving to the specialist, what happened was Nessie happened to push that sac all the way down and a puppy came out while we were in the car. Now this was stressful. What we had to do was obviously number one, help Nessie get the sac out and get the sac off the puppy in the dark. Number two was cut the umbilical cord and make sure we stop that bleeding. Number three was rub down the puppy, get it moving, get it breathing. And number four was to clear those airways and make sure there was no fluid in the airways. So that's the nostrils and the mouth. And we had to do this while driving on speed bumps and railway lines. It was not great. And also trying to keep this puppy warm. Now, when puppies are born, they have to be kept in a external temperature of between 30 to 32 degrees. And in the car, all we had was a hot water bottle and the heater. And it was very stressful because we had no way to know what temperature the car was actually at. So it was a lot of guesswork, and we definitely turned straight back around and headed straight back home so we could get this puppy into the proper heating area. So I'm going to let this video play out here. We are currently just trying to get some more heating for this puppy. I am vigorously rubbing it to try and dry the puppy off and help, and trying to let Nessie do her job as much as possible while in the car. Now we were in a Suzuki Swift, so it wasn't very big. It was quite small actually, and it was just what an experience, honestly, very stressful, but luckily there was no actual complications in the car, and we managed to get home and get Nessie back into the whelping box. Now, because the birth happened in the car for this first puppy, there was a lot of blood. So here I am trying to clean Nessie up a little bit before the next puppy arrives, and also trying to get that first puppy to start drinking some milk. This is a really good way to bring on contractions to help the next puppy come down the birth canal. But this little girl, unfortunately, she was struggling a little bit to find a nipple and just get into the motion of drinking. And then we had to tie off her umbilical cord because it was bleeding still. So I used some dental floss here to just tie it off. My sister came in to help. She is definitely not into the whole breeding and labor business. So she thought it smelled very bad. And you can see her face at the end of this video. She's just, struggling to keep it together. But she was great. She was so much help. And she helped me with that umbilical cord there. Now I'll let this video play out. We're just cutting off the umbilical cord. There you go. She hates it. It does smell quite bad, I'm not going to lie. And then before we knew it, the next puppy was out. The second puppy just slipped right out. There was no struggling for Nessie, and yep, here's the sack. Now, the first thing we do is I try and let Nessie do as much of the work as possible. This is very natural to her, and it's important to let her follow her natural instincts so she does bond with that puppy and feel that connection. But at the same time, we have to make sure that puppy starts starts breathing and the puppy warms up. So I let Nessie have a little go at licking and breaking open the sack, and then if she needs extra help, then I come in and I help her with that puppy there. Now this is Nessie's third litter, so we've done this many times before together, and we are quite a good little team, I think, and she does trust me a lot with the puppy. So here we go. I've just helped her open the sack and pull the sack over the puppy's head. And now I've come in with the towel to dry off the puppy a bit. Nessie licking the puppy is very important. She is helping to get rid of any excess fluid in the nostrils and also to help dry off the puppy. But the puppy's umbilical cord was still attached to the placenta, which was still inside of Nessie. So I came in and I cut that puppy free so I could get the puppy up and get it breathing as soon as possible. So into my hands the puppy goes, and I start to rub it with a towel quite vigorously. We want to get the puppy moving and breathing and as warm as quickly as possible. Like I said, they have to be kept between 30 to 32 degrees, and if the puppy is wet, obviously everything feels a lot colder. So we want to dry her off as soon as possible and get her breathing. So I used my suction bulb here to clear the nostrils and the mouth and the airways just to make sure the puppy was breathing. If you pop a puppy up to your ear and you hear it cry, if there is any gurgling, that means there's still fluid in the lungs. So you want to keep going with the suction bulb until there's no fluid left. So here we go. Nessie's trying to help, but at this stage, I just have to try and get those airways clear, and then I'll give the puppy back to Nessie. Obviously, you can see quite a lot of blood and fluid on the ground there. That is why we use puppy pads, because it means we can throw those out, and underneath is a whelping mat that is all clean once the labour and delivery is all finished. Now, this little puppy, she was quite amazing. She didn't have too much fluid in the lungs, so I got her clean quite quickly, and there you go. Both puppies are born. Nessie only had 2 puppies in this litter, and both puppies were healthy. It was definitely the most stressful labour she's had, so I did sleep in the whelping box with her that night. She was quite anxious after that whole ordeal, and obviously exhausted. We were up for more than 24 hours without sleeping. But look at these puppies. Aren't they gorgeous? They have the most beautiful ruby red coats, and they're just so healthy. They're quite big because there's only 2 of them, and they're drinking so well. And look at that tongue. I'm just obsessed. So the puppies are 24 hours old now and just gorgeous, and I love them. Hope you enjoyed.